Good evening, Wanderer. Welcome back to the buried heart of Harrow Creek. We have heard the tale of Elena Warren. We met the witness who ran. We freed the lady who was trapped between life and the hunger of the house. But every story leaves behind a shadow, and every shadow longs for the moment it can pull itself into the light. Tonight's tale begins with a man who once survived the Harrow Creek house, a man who escaped his past only to be devoured by it decades later. Tonight, we follow the sheriff, a man who thought he had escaped the house that consumed his wife, only to learn that the house does not release what it claims. So gather close, Wanderer, still your breath, calm your trembling. This is episode 3. The Sheriff's Last Case. The sheriff's house sat on the edge of Harrow Creek, surrounded by tall pines that swayed in the wind like mourners dressed in black. After the events of episode 2, he had not slept more than a few minutes at a time. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the McBride nursery ceiling, the crawling figure, the stretching stairs, his deputies fading into the walls, and the upstairs lady dissolving in a shower of dust. But it wasn't those horrors that kept him awake. It was the final image, the moment the house erupted in shrieks when he crushed the locket, and the brief, terrible silence afterward. The sheriff told himself it was over. He knew he was lying. On the third night, he sat on his porch with a mug of untouched coffee. The moon was a cold slice of bone in the sky. Alden sat with him. They didn't speak. They didn't have to. Finally, the sheriff broke the silence. "How long do we have before it wakes again?" Alden kept his eyes on the tree line. "Not long. It fed on Morgan. It touched us. It tasted fear." The sheriff exhaled heavily. "I freed her," he whispered. "I freed the upstairs lady." Alden clenched his teeth. "You freed one mouth." He pointed toward the woods. "That house has many." The sheriff stared at him. "What are you saying?" Alden turned. "Sheriff, the upstairs lady wasn't the only one trapped there. She wasn't even the first." Before the sheriff could ask, the phone inside the house rang. A sudden, shrill, unnatural sound that made both men jump. The sheriff stood. "No one calls me this late." Alden grabbed his arm. "Don't answer it." The sheriff shook him off and walked inside. He lifted the phone to his ear, his face drained of color. Alden stood in the doorway. "What is it?" the sheriff whispered. "It's Hayes." Alden blinked. "He survived?" The sheriff swallowed. "He said he's at the house." Static crackled on the line. The sheriff pressed the phone tighter to his ear. "Hayes? Hayes, talk to me. Where are you?" More static. Then a faint voice whispered, "Sheriff, don't let it take me." The sheriff's heart pounded. "Hayes, listen to me. Where are you right now?" A long, broken exhale. I'm back inside." The sheriff froze. No, Hayes, don't move. Stay exactly where you are." A choking sound. "I tried to leave, sir. The door closed behind me. It won't let me out. Something's in the hallways." Alden whispered behind him. "It calls survivors back." Hayes' voice trembled through the static. "Sir, it's dark. I can't find the stairs. I can't find anything." The sheriff's stomach twisted. "You shouldn't be inside that house. I told you to run. Why did you go back?" Hayes inhaled sharply, painfully. I heard someone crying inside, sir." The sheriff's eyes widened. Alden grabbed his arm again. "No, he didn't hear someone crying. The house mimicked someone." Hayes whispered. "I thought it was you." The sheriff froze. "What? I heard your voice, calling for help. I thought you were trapped inside." A cold wind moved through the phone line. A woman's voice whispered faintly behind Hayes. Alden flinched. "That's not Hayes' phone. That's coming from the house." The sheriff's hand trembled. Hayes, listen to me. Are you alone? Hayes didn't answer. Instead, the house whispered into the receiver. You left us. The sheriff slammed the phone down. He grabbed his coat. Alden followed him to the porch. You can't go back there. The sheriff didn't stop walking. He's my deputy. Alden stepped in front of him. She wants you, Sheriff. After everything you saw, she wants closure. The sheriff brushed past him. So I'll give her closure. The sheriff drove alone. The road was darker than usual. The trees leaned inward. The wind seemed to hush itself. No insects, no night birds, just silence. Halfway down the road, fog rolled across his headlights. Thick, heavy, unnatural. His radio crackled. He jumped. Hayes, he whispered. Through static, Hayes' faint voice whispered, Don't come, sir. It wants you. It wants you. It wants. A deep groan burst through the radio speakers, shaking the car interior. The sheriff slammed the radio off. He gripped the wheel. Hold on, Hayes. I'm coming. The house appeared ahead. Its windows glowed faintly, not with electricity, with something alive. The sheriff whispered, God, help me. He stepped out of the car. The ground felt different beneath his boots, softer, warmer, like breathing earth. The sheriff swallowed hard and approached the porch. The door was closed this time, but the lights inside flickered like a heartbeat. He placed his palm on the wood. The door was warm, too warm. A sick realization hit him. It's awake. The door swung open before he could touch the knob. Slowly, invitingly, a gust of warm air blew past him, carrying a faint smell of perfume, his wife's perfume. The sheriff's knees nearly buckled. No, he whispered. No, not again. A faint voice drifted from the hallway. Why did you leave me? The sheriff stepped inside, because he had no choice. The moment he crossed the threshold, the house shifted. It grew around him. The ceiling rose, the walls expanded, the hallway stretched far beyond its original length. The house was reshaping itself, preparing. The sheriff called out, Hayes! Hayes! Nothing. Only the deep, rhythmic breathing of the house. He clicked his flashlight on. This time, the beam died halfway down the hall, as though the darkness had mass. He moved forward slowly, his boots sank slightly into the floorboards. Like the house was softening beneath him, he whispered, Please don't take him too. And somewhere deep within the house, a woman's laugh drifted through the air. Soft, sad, cruel. You ran from me. The sheriff whispered her name. Eliza? His wife's voice answered, Come upstairs. The sheriff stepped deeper into the house. The hallway behind him shifted with a long, slow exhale, as if the house was sealing itself. He turned his flashlight to the far end of the hall. Children's drawings lined the walls, new ones, drawn in charcoal, unreadable scribbles, twisted faces, eyes crossed out. He moved the light lower. Small footprints appeared in the dust, leading down the hallway. Tiny, bare, fresh. Hayes hadn't made those. He followed them, heart pounding. The floor beneath him pulsed, subtle but unmistakable. He flicked his light behind him. The footprints were gone. The house erased them. A whisper drifted down the hall, a child's whisper. Follow. The sheriff steadied his breath. Show yourself. Another whisper. Closer. He tightened his grip on the flashlight and walked forward. As he approached the living room, the air changed. Thicker, warmer, breathing. He entered the room slowly, and there, sitting on the floor facing the cold fireplace, was a little girl. Thin, still, hair matted, skin pale. The sheriff whispered, Elena? The girl didn't turn. Her voice came out cracked and tiny. Don't help us. His blood froze. It was Elena's voice. But the tone, the way her shoulders were rigid, the way her head tilted at an impossible angle, he knew. This wasn't Elena. This was something wearing her memory. He raised his flashlight. "Where is Hayes?" The girl twitched, just once. Then she slowly lifted her hand and pointed to the stairs, without turning, without breathing, without moving any other part of her body. The sheriff swallowed hard. "Thank you," the little girl giggled. But it wasn't a child's giggle. It was layered. A chorus of giggles all overlapping. Women, men, children. Dozens of voices compressed into one sound that bent wrong in the air. He stepped backward. The girl's neck snapped violently as she turned her head toward him. Her face was blank. No eyes, no nose, no mouth, just smooth gray skin. The sheriff ran for the stairs. Behind him, the girl's faceless head tracked his movement without moving her body at all. He reached the bottom of the stairs and stopped. The staircase was different now. Longer, narrower, steeper. The steps looked wet, like they were breathing through the wood. He lifted his flashlight. The top of the staircase was pitch black. Something shifted inside that blackness. A large shape. Wrong shape. He called out, "Hayes!" The house replied, "Come take him." A cold wind blew down the stairs, carrying a faint scent of aftershave. Hayes's aftershave. The sheriff felt tears sting his eyes. "I'm coming," he whispered. Alden's voice echoed faintly behind him, but Alden was nowhere in sight. "Don't climb. It knows you're alone." The sheriff clenched his jaw. "I'm not leaving him." He placed his foot on the first step. It sunk slightly, like the wood was turning to flesh. He lifted his foot quickly. The house groaned, a deep, disappointed moan. Then the stairs hardened again, inviting him upward. He stepped onto the next one and climbed. One slow step after another. His light flickered. He climbed higher. The walls tightened around him like a narrowing throat. He climbed further. His breath grew heavy. The air thickened, and then a hand grabbed his ankle. He nearly fell backwards. He turned his light downward and saw a hand touching him from between the wooden steps. A long, thin, gray arm stretching out impossibly from the floorboards. He kicked it off. The arm retreated beneath the stairs. Breathing followed him up the steps, heavy, wet, close. He climbed faster. He reached the top. The upstairs landing was unrecognizable. No hallway, no doors, just a long, curved corridor made of rotting wood. The walls pulsed faintly, like veins. A single door stood at the very end. The sheriff raised his flashlight. "Hayes?" A faint knock answered him from the door. 3 tiny taps. Tap, tap. The sheriff walked toward it. The closer he got, the colder he felt. The temperature plummeted with each step. His breath fogged in front of him. Another tap from behind the door. He gripped the handle. The house hummed, something like a heartbeat. He opened the door. The room was dark, empty, except for a single chair in the center. And on that chair sat Hayes, his head slumped, his body trembling, his hands tied behind him with something that wasn't rope. It looked like veins. The sheriff rushed forward. "Hayes!" Hayes lifted his head slowly. His eyes were bloodshot, terrified. "Wrong. Sir," he whispered. "It found me." The sheriff grabbed the material binding Hayes's wrists. It pulsed under his fingers. He recoiled. "What is this?" Hayes sobbed. It grew out of the floor." The sheriff steadied himself and ripped the bindings. The veins tore with a wet sound. Hayes screamed. The sheriff grabbed him. "We need to get you out, now." But Hayes wasn't looking at him anymore. He was staring over the sheriff's shoulder, eyes wide, white with terror. "Sir, behind you." The sheriff froze. The room grew even colder. A slow breath drifted down his neck. He turned, slowly, Terrified, a figure stood in the corner. Tall, still, bent at the spine, its hair hung long and stringy, its arms reached the floor, and when it lifted its head, he saw her face, his wife. The sheriff stepped backward involuntarily, almost tripping over Hayes. "Eliza," he whispered, her head tilted, her mouth pulled into a trembling, broken smile. Her voice cracked. "You left me." Tears spilled down the sheriff's cheeks. "Eliza, it's not you." She took a step forward. Her feet didn't touch the floor. Her bones cracked as she moved. "Why did you run?" she asked. The sheriff stumbled back. Hayes sobbed. "She's not real, sir. Don't believe it. Don't listen." But the sheriff couldn't look away. He whispered, "I didn't want to leave you. I came back. I tried." She shrieked. The sound was inhuman, like metal scraping bone. The sheriff dropped to one knee, hands over his ears. Hayes screamed again, and Eliza's form bent backwards unnaturally, crawling up the wall like a spider. Her head twisted fully around, her voice turned monstrous. "You run from all of us." Then something else spoke from behind her voice, something older, something hungrier. "Come downstairs." The sheriff shook violently. Hayes grabbed his shoulder. "Sir? Go, go!" The sheriff pulled him up. They bolted through the doorway. The hallway behind them twisted. Doors slammed shut one by one. The stairs stretched downward into darkness. The house wanted them inside, deeper, forever. The sheriff and Hayes stumbled into the corridor. The moment they crossed the threshold, the door behind them sealed shut with a fleshy thud. Hayes pressed his back to the wall, panting. "Sir, I can't. This place is breathing." The sheriff steadied him. "Hayes, listen to me. We're getting out, together." But the sheriff wasn't sure he believed it, because the hallway ahead wasn't the same hallway they entered earlier. It had grown longer, curving slightly, sloping downward, like the house was bending itself into a spiral. Hayes pointed with a shaking hand. "Sir, the walls, look." The wallpaper pulsed gently, expanding and contracting like lungs inhaling. A faint heartbeat drummed inside the wood, soft, rhythmic, alive. Hayes gagged. "Oh, God! Oh, God!" The sheriff grabbed his shoulders. "Breathe. Stay with me." But Hayes's eyes drifted to the far corner of the hall. A shadow peeled itself from the wall, slowly, deliberately. A tall figure, long arms, bent spine, Eliza's silhouette. Hayes screamed, "Run!" They sprinted deeper into the hall. Behind them something crawled along the ceiling, fast, scraping its limbs across the wood with a sound like knives dragged across bone. A door appeared on the left, one that wasn't there before. The sheriff grabbed the knob, locked. He kicked it, still locked. Hayes backed up, trembling violently. "Sir, behind us, behind us!" The sheriff turned. Eliza emerged from the darkness, her limbs jerking in unnatural angles, eyes hollow, mouth hanging open as though filled with endless screaming. The sheriff roared, "Open the door!" The knob turned by itself, not for them, for her. The sheriff ripped it open, shoved Hayes through, and slammed it behind them. They were plunged into darkness. Pitch black. Hayes whispered, "Sir, where are we?" The sheriff flicked his flashlight. It buzzed, flickered, then came on. They stood in a dining room, but not the one from downstairs. This one was wrong, far too long, far too tall. The ceiling arched upward like the inside of a cathedral. And the table, oh God, the table was set for dinner. 12 chairs, 12 plates, 12 wine glasses filled with something dark, thick, warm. Hayes whispered, That's blood." The sheriff couldn't speak, because behind the chair sat figures, all of them upright, all of them perfectly still, all of them wearing cracked porcelain masks shaped like human faces. Their heads slowly turned toward him. One by one, The masks weren't smiling. They weren't frowning. They were waiting. Hayes whimpered, "Sir, sir, let's go. Please, let's go." The sheriff grabbed his arm. "Don't look at them. Move." They backed toward another door. But one of the porcelain figures lifted its hand, slowly, deliberately. A finger pointed toward the sheriff. The sheriff froze. The mask cracked a little across the cheek. Behind the porcelain, a voice whispered, "You left me." Eliza's voice, again. Hayes screamed. The sheriff dragged him through the door, right as all 12 masks cracked at once, revealing shrieking mouths beneath. They stumbled into another hallway, shorter this time, narrower. The sheriff leaned against the wall, catching his breath. Hayes collapsed, hyperventilating. "Sir, I'm seeing things. I saw her face in the masks. Sir, I can't." The sheriff knelt in front of him. "Hayes, look at me, look at me." Hayes lifted his head. His eyes, they weren't the same, too wide, too dark around the edges, like the house had brushed him, touched him. The sheriff whispered, "What did it do to you?" Hayes's voice cracked. "It's in my head." He clutched his skull. "It keeps saying my name, keeps whispering, keeps telling me to come back upstairs." The sheriff shook him. "Fight it." Hayes sobbed. I'm trying, but every time I blink, I see her. Your wife, crawling across the ceiling. I hear her crying. I hear her calling me." He grabbed the sheriff's collar. "Why can I hear your wife calling me?" The sheriff swallowed hard. "Because it's learning you." Hayes's breath hitched. "What?" "This house uses what you fear, but it also uses what I fear. It's mixing us. It's copying us." Hayes leaned back against the wall, trembling violently. "I'm losing myself, sir." The sheriff closed his eyes. "No, you're not." But as he said it, the floorboards beneath Hayes' legs darkened, like they were absorbing something from him, a slow, creeping blackness. Hayes didn't notice. He whispered, "Do you hear that?" The sheriff listens, a faint tapping, soft, rhythmic, like footsteps. Eliza's footsteps, they were coming. Hayes clutched the sheriff's arm. "Sir, please, don't let her take me." The sheriff positioned himself between Hayes and the approaching sound. "She'll have to get through me." Hayes's face twisted into something like gratitude and terror. Then he whispered, "It's not Eliza coming." The sheriff frowned. "What do you mean?" Hayes lifted his shaking hand and pointed behind the sheriff. At the far end of the hallway, a small silhouette stood, thin, childlike, staring at them. The sheriff whispered, "Samuel." The boy didn't move. He just stood in the dark, arms at his sides, head slightly tilted. Exactly how he looked in Alden's memories. Hayes whispered, "Is he alive?" "Sir, is he?" "No," the sheriff whispered. "That's not Samuel." The boy twitched, just once, and his neck cracked loudly. Then another loud crack as the head twisted unnaturally to the side. Hayes whimpered, "Sir, sir!" The sheriff raised his flashlight. The beam landed on the boy's face, and the sheriff almost vomited. Samuel's face was wrong. Too pale, too stretched. His eyes were black pits, his lips thin lines. He opened his mouth. A long, silent scream poured out, but no sound came. Instead, the hallway around them vibrated. Hayes screamed, "Sir, what is he doing?" The sheriff grabbed Hayes. "Run!" They bolted down the narrowing hallway. Behind them, Samuel did not run. He flickered. Closer. Then flickered again. Even closer. Then again. Right behind them. Hayes shrieked, "He's touching me. Sir, he's touching." The sheriff slammed into a door that hadn't been there before. He shoved Hayes through first, then slammed it shut, just as Samuel's hand slapped against the surface. The wood pulsed where the boy touched it, then went still. The sheriff collapsed against the door, chest heaving. Hayes curled into a ball on the floors, rocking back and forth. Sir, this house is killing me. Please, please, help me. The sheriff knelt beside him and saw it. Saw the truth. Hayes's shadow was no longer his. It stretched too long, too thin. Its arms dragged on the floor. Its head hung at an impossible angle. The house was changing Hayes, and fast. The sheriff whispered, No, not you two. Hayes looked up, eyes wide. Sir, I can't feel my hands. The sheriff grabbed them. They were cold, too cold, like the house was draining him. Hayes whispered, Sir, if I change, you can't let me become part of it. The sheriff swallowed. Hayes, stop, don't say that. I mean it. Hayes's voice broke. You can't let me be trapped in here forever. Don't let me turn into one of those things. His voice dropped to a whisper. You have to end me if it gets bad. Please, promise me that. The sheriff shook his head violently. I won't hurt you. Hayes grabbed his coat. Promise me. The sheriff's voice cracked. I promise. Hayes closed his eyes. Thank you. The sheriff stood. He had to find a way out, but the house whispered softly through the walls. You can only leave one behind. Hayes didn't hear it, but the sheriff did. He clenched his jaw. No, the sheriff whispered. I'm not leaving him. I won't. The house whispered back. You ran once. You'll run again. Hayes sat shaking, staring at his hands as if they were no longer his. The sheriff scanned the room. They were inside a cramped nursery. But not the McBride nursery. Not Elena's nursery. Not any nursery he remembered. This one was older, much older. The wallpaper peeled in long strips. The crib was cracked and blackened. A rocking chair moved on its own, slow and rhythmic, creaking like old bones. Hayes whispered, Sir, this wasn't here before. The sheriff nodded. It's showing us something. A faint lullaby drifted from a far corner, playing on a broken music box. The sheriff approached it slowly. The melody was uneven, off-key, sick. He opened the music box. It wasn't playing music. Inside, a woman's severed finger turned the rusted gears. Hayes gagged and crawled away. The sheriff slammed the lid shut. The lullaby didn't stop. Instead, it grew louder. Voices joined it. Children's voices, crying in harmony with the broken tune. Hayes pressed his palms to his ears. Make it stop! The sheriff grabbed him. Hayes, look at me. Stay with me. But Hayes wasn't hearing him. He was staring at the wall next to them. The wallpaper bubbled, softly, like something breathing behind it. Hayes whispered, It's learning my voice now. Sir, it's copying me. And then the house whispered back in Hayes' exact voice, Sir, help me. Hayes screamed. The sheriff's stomach twisted. The house wasn't just feeding on Hayes, it was becoming him. A soft thump sounded behind them. The sheriff turned. Eliza stood in the center of the nursery, no longer distorted, no longer bent. She looked exactly as she had the night she disappeared. Hair tied back, soft green dress, bare feet. Beautiful, horribly wrong. Her voice shook. Why did you leave me? The sheriff felt his chest collapse inward. Eliza, I didn't leave you. I tried to come back. She stepped forward slowly. Hayes crawled behind the sheriff, clutching his shirt. Eliza whispered, I heard you run. I heard your boots on the stairs. I heard you call my name, but you didn't come back. The sheriff felt tears fill his eyes. I came back with a team. You came too late. Her voice sharpened. You came when it no longer mattered. The room trembled. Eliza's face flickered. For a moment, her left eye hollowed out. Her right cheek sank. Her jaw cracked. Then she became whole again. Hayes sobbed. She's not her, sir. She's not. She's the house. She's USing her. Eliza's head turned sharply toward Hayes, twisting too far. Her voice dropped into something deeper, older. You don't speak to me. The sheriff stepped between them. "Leave him alone." Her smile widened unnaturally. "You couldn't protect me," the sheriff whispered. "Eliza, please, forgive me." The room grew dark. Eliza whispered, "I can't forgive you, but I can take you." Then her head snapped backward, and the room went silent. The crib cracked open. The rocking chair toppled. The walls split open vertically, peeling apart like rotting skin. Behind the wallpaper was not insulation, not wood, not structure. Behind the wallpaper was the house's flesh, dark, wet, veined, breathing. Hayes crawled backward. It's alive, sir, it's alive." The sheriff grabbed him. "We're leaving." But as he turned toward the door, there was no door. Only wall, then a soft click. Behind them, the music box opened by itself, and Eliza's voice drifted from inside it, downstairs. Hayes's hands shook violently. "Sir, if we go down there, we won't come out." The sheriff swallowed hard. "We don't have a choice." The room folded inward, literally folded. The ceiling bent downward. The walls stretched. The floor bowed. The sheriff dragged Hayes toward where the door had been. A seam opened. A new hallway formed. Dark. Spiral. Descending. The house whispered, "Finish what you started." The sheriff stepped into the descending tunnel. Hayes followed, stumbling. The walls pulsed closer with each step. The floor grew softer underfoot, the air warm and humid. Hayes whispered, "It feels like a throat." The sheriff didn't disagree. They descended further, twisting, turning, down, deeper than any house should go. The sheriff whispered, "This isn't a basement." Hayes looked at him with hollow eyes. "No, sir, it's a stomach." They emerged into a massive chamber. Round, dark, alive, veins pulsed along the walls. The air smelled of rot and old breath. At the center was a platform made of bone-white wood. On it, a bundle. Small, still, shaking. The sheriff approached. "Hayes, stay behind me." Step by step, he moved closer. The bundle trembled, then gasped. The sheriff pulled away the rotten cloth. A child lay inside, a little girl, alive, barely. Her mouth moved silently, her limbs twitched. It was not Elena. It was not Emma McBride. It was a child he had never seen, maybe from decades ago, maybe older. Hayes whispered, "There were more. There were always more." The sheriff lifted the girl gently. Her skin was ice cold, her eyes opened. Black, pitch black. She whispered, "Run." Then something in the darkness shifted. Heavy, wet, crawling. Hayes screamed, "Sir, we have to go, now!" The sheriff grabbed him with one arm and the girl with the other. The chamber trembled. A massive shadow rose from the walls. No shape, no form, just hunger. The sheriff ran. The tunnel began closing behind them. Not collapsing, closing, like lips sealing. The sheriff sprinted harder. Hayes struggled to keep up. "Sir, wait! Wait!" The sheriff grabbed him. "I'm not leaving you." But the house whispered clearly, "You must leave one." The sheriff ran harder. Hayes stumbled. The sheriff pulled him. The tunnel constricted. Tighter, tighter. And then the floor opened beneath Hayes. He dropped. Sir, help me!" The sheriff lunged. He grabbed Hayes's wrist. Hayes dangled over the abyss. A pit of writhing, gray arms reached up toward him. The sheriff pulled. Hayes screamed, "Don't let go! Don't let go! Don't!" The house whispered, "Finish what you started." A sudden convulsion shook the tunnel. The sheriff slipped. Hayes's fingers slid through his grip. No. Hayes fell. He disappeared into the darkness. His scream echoed once, then stopped. The sheriff collapsed to his knees. No. The little girl in his arms whispered faintly, "Run before it takes you too." He forced himself up. He ran. He reached a narrow passage. Light glowed faintly ahead. He ran toward it. the girl thrashed weakly. He held her tightly. The door at the end cracked open. Alden stood there, eyes wide, hands trembling. "Sheriff, run!" The sheriff dove through the door. Alden slammed it shut. The house shrieked. The sheriff collapsed on the dirt outside the porch. The girl lay next to him weakly. The house trembled. The house trembled. "Don't look back!" The sheriff didn't. They ran to the car. The house's windows pulsed like veins. Lights flickered. Then, silence. Hours later, the sheriff sat in the back of an ambulance, blanket over his shoulders. The girl, whoever she was alive but unconscious. Alden watched the house from afar. "It won't chase," he whispered. "It fed enough." The sheriff stared at his hands. "I lost Hayes," Alden nodded sadly. "She took him. She wanted you, but she took him." The sheriff shook his head. "She took my wife. She took the McBrides. She took Elena." Alden put a hand on his shoulder. "She takes whatever enters, but she never keeps everything." The sheriff turned. "What does that mean?" Alden pointed at the unconscious girl. "You saved one." The sheriff stared. Alden continued, "And maybe she's the first to ever escape alive." The sheriff looked at the Harrow Creek house. It was still, quiet, sleeping. Alden whispered, "It's not over. It will wake again." The sheriff nodded. "I know." He stood. "We're going to find out what it is, where it came from, how to end it." Alden's eyes widened. "Sheriff, no one ends it." The sheriff stared at the house. "I will." He looked back at the girl. "We're gonna need her help." Alden's breath caught. "You think she remembers anything?" The sheriff whispered, "I think she remembers everything." The house exhaled softly, as if amused. The sheriff turned his back on it, for now. And so, Wanderer, another chapter of the Harrow Creek legend ends in blood and sorrow. A deputy gone, a child rescued, a house denied the feast it wanted, but the sheriff has made a vow, and Harrow Creek House does not take kindly to broken promises. Return to me for episode 4, where the child awakens and the truth begins to surface. I am the Nightmare Maiden, and the dark remembers.